King Richie here with Lauren Calve at the Tin Pan right before her show. Just want to chat with you a little bit, ask you a few questions. I read, I think maybe on your website bio that you used to struggle with stage fright a lot. You've been performing for a long time, and I'm curious if you still feel stage fright at all, and what things do you maybe do, like any rituals you have before a show to get ready?
Yeah, good question. Yeah, I had horrible stage fright. I actually wrote a song about it recently where I feel a little bit like a late bloomer in that regard because it took me so long, virtually like my entire 20s, like an entire decade to just kind of get pseudo comfortable on stage. And what I guess makes me feel most comfortable being on stage is having your set list and knowing the order of the songs, just to kind of micromanage it a little bit so you know when you're going to talk, what you're going to kind of say.
Having a plan, right?
Yeah, totally. If I don't have that sort of like outline in my mind, I used to like wake up at like 3 or 4 in the morning and be like, what did I say? I was so stupid.
Like looking back on shows.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Or like at the night or following morning after a show. Like I
call it the post-show cringe.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes, that's exactly what it is.
PCC, yeah.
I will be referring to it as such from now on. Totally.
You have a full band with you and everything. Did you always have in mind when you started picking up the guitar when you were like 15 years old, writing songs? Were you really thinking about being a band leader then? And how, what have you had to learn to kind of like, learn to manage people like that? Collaborate, maybe, if that's better.
Yeah. I guess it's a little bit of both. I feel like I've always been surrounded by great players, which has been super helpful. People who were more experienced than me, maybe a little older. They would help me without stepping on my toes or going over me. They would kind of help to, do the drum speak or the bass speak, kind of articulate, like have the music vocabulary to articulate what the song needed.
Yeah.
And so I kind of learned from that, and I would just kind of sit back and be like, oh yeah, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, no hi-hat, maybe just snare, and you kind of like learn all of the speak, the language,
lingo and all that stuff.
Of instruments and of being in a band. But yeah, I remember my first ever band rehearsal. Talk about like the cringe. It was like the in the moment cringe. And the drummer was like, okay, we're gonna play this song first, and like go ahead and count it off, Lauren. And I was like, does that I knew what a count off was, but I was like so nervous to think of like the tempo of the song and then to count it off. I just had no confidence or experience doing that. Now to think back, it's funny because now I feel like I've at least some of the vocabulary enough to get me, get everyone together, get everyone on the same page, and like stop when things aren't going right to kind of tweak here and there. But I really like when players express themselves and play according to their own styles and how they're feeling. I don't want the players in my band to play everything like just as it sounds on the record, because I just think that's also boring for people who come to a live show. It's like, wow, this sounds like the record. That's impressive, but it's not.
I'm glad you brought that up. Actually, this is my first time seeing you live tonight. I've heard your catalog on Spotify and everything. You always have an idea of the songs that you really like resonate with, and then one of my favorite things is like seeing a live band. Maybe I'm a little familiar with their music, but then the live performance, I'm like, oh man, I really like this one song that maybe I never even thought about, on the recorded version, but something about the emotional connection of being there live. So I'm looking forward to what that's going to be for me tonight. But do you have a particular song specifically that you're going to perform that's on the next album coming up that you're just really looking forward to playing?
Without giving too much away, since the album is unreleased and I haven't shared the track lists or the names or anything, but you'll find out if you're here or if you've been to the show tonight. It was one of those songs that we recorded in the studio where when you go back to the control room and to the mixing room and the engineer played it back, it was like it was so exactly. It was like so reflective. It was just so perfectly aligned with the lyrics and where I want to kind of take my music and my sound and everything, because it's kind of shifting and evolving. It just sounds so big, and it's like a nice warm hug or something. And I just love reverb and delay, and so when anything is just like drenched in that, I'm a big fan.
I call that being in the bag. Like you're in your bag and that's
Okay. I'm like these turns phrases. That's exactly what it's like.
You know, you were telling me about like the recording process in Nashville and stuff like that. Right now, you're kind of shopping the album around to labels and everything. What does that entail? What is the business side of things like when it comes to that?
Yeah, this is the first time I am going through this process, and because normally I was just before this. Just doing it DIY, self-releasing. First of all, you have to have like a really good manager, which I have like in spades. He's amazing, and so he, you know, kind of does some research to find labels, but also labels that are the right size, and especially for a developing artist who I feel like is still getting my sea legs in the industry. So, yeah, and of course there are some that I have preference for because of artists that I love and admire, and I think, you know, just intuitively I'm like, well, maybe that would work because there's some similarities there, but yeah, you never know. So finding the right label is it's a journey. It's kind of this research process and sending your music out and hearing back, and really it's just kind of like finding the right partnership with someone who believes in you and believes in your music, especially as a developing artist. It has to be, I think, a really good. It really has to be that solid of a fit, or else you kind of slip through the cracks. I think.
As fans, we always love hearing like the success stories. I'm like, oh man, like, you know, that artist hooked up with that label, and it's such a good partnership. And of course, you know, there are some like, you know, horror stories and everything. That sounds like a whole headache.
Exactly.
But, you know, it's dope that you have a manager to handle that.
Yes, and if worst comes to worst, I've done the self-release thing, and I know how to do that. And each time I've self-released, I've learned so much about how to invest, where to invest. So, you know, I feel like I'm nowhere near. I don't have the funding of a label or like the knowledge of the label, but I feel like I'm definitely more savvy than I was.
Yeah. Makes me think of buying a car. Like I think when I bought my first car when I was
That's
20 years old.
Great analogy, yeah.
Yeah, the guy offers, hey, here's a car, and I'm like, I don't know if it's a good deal or not. Can I call my dad? Like I asked him if I could call my dad. But now, like, you know, a year ago I bought a new car, and I'm like, okay, not my first rodeo. Like, you know, but
when you go through the process, it's then
you know what to expect, or at least the questions they're going to ask. You know,
yes,
the lay of the land. What are some of your aspirations for this album? Maybe you think about like legacy that you want it to have for your career, for your environment, or you know, at its best. You know,
gosh, it's cool to think about. This album is the first that really sounds like me, and it's the most revealing of my life and what I've gone through and where I'm going, and it really is kind of this cornerstone in this, I guess, this new sound that I'm building, and this new aesthetic. My voice is, I'm singing different, I'm writing different. Tonight I'm doing a little bit of my older stuff and then the newer stuff, and there is like this difference, and I'm excited about it, and I just want to keep developing that. I already have like I've been working on songwriting since recording this album, and I can already feel it coalescing more, you know, like, okay, I can see that. Yeah, I can see it kind of taking shape. It's definitely has been a spiritual journey writing these songs and recording these songs. And I hope that people can feel that, and that it just connects people with their own humanity and soul. I don't know if that's like way too outlandish to say.
No, I think that's one of the biggest like things that I think people can hope for in their music, you know?
Yeah, so that's like the top tier for me. Like if I can make people connect with themselves and feel more fully alive and human. That's, at the end of the day, that's it. You know, that's the main goal.
I'm definitely looking forward to hearing some of these songs that, who knows when I'll be able to hear them on the record, you know, but, you know, it's good to hear that you feel like this is, you know, just so much more of yourself, because the songs you've done thus far sound pretty damn good to me. So I'm sure it's only going to be better. But thank you so much. I look forward to it. And
Thank you so
good luck out
much.
there.